Hi and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse Lockdown Lowdown series, and today I'm joined by Cassini Resources Managing Director Richard Bevan. Now Richard, everybody woke up this morning to some news, I suppose. Well, a lot of market watchers may have been expecting it to happen at some stage. Others might have been surprised, but you wouldn't call it a takeover from Oz Minerals, your partner out at out there in the Musgrave. How would you describe it?
Yeah, thanks, Wally. Yeah, look, that's some big news, and I would probably describe it. It's almost an asset sale, a divestment of the West Musgrave project. So even though Oz will take 100% control of Cassini, there are a number of assets within Cassini that we will spin out into a new company, and shareholders will have the exposure to that. So, one journey ends, another one starts. Good opportunity to. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just going to. I mean, as you were saying, okay, so it's like a divestment of an asset. It's a fairly substantial asset. We can't just sort of gloss over it like that, because there's been a lot of work put in it over the last 10 years, and there's a lot of development already started there. And Oz Minerals have been a big supporter of that particular asset for quite some time. So it makes sense, they put so much money into it. It makes sense that they, continue working on that. But as we've discussed in the past, you also, as Cassini, had your own 100% owned projects on the side, so to speak, and they remain yours in the new company, which we'll talk about soon. But so it's a sale. The company still has its 100% assets and the ability to focus on them, and the money to focus on them.
Yeah, look, I think you're right, Wally. I think it's Oz are probably the logical owner of this project at some point. It's been a project that we acquired in 2014, and Oz came in 2016, and we've actually had a great partnership over that period. It got to the point really where it's a big project for us, and there's lots of risk and around funding and timeline of the project when you're a minority party. So I think Oz are the logical owner. It's been a very cooperative and collaborative sort of discussion. And now is probably a good time to give shareholders the opportunity to decide whether they want to realise some value for the West Musgrave and the demerger of a new company, Cassini, that will take the other Cassini assets and look to list on the exchange and go forward as an exploration company again.
All right, so you just mentioned the new company, Cassini. So in a nutshell, what does it really mean for the Cassini shareholders right now? What value do they get out of the whole deal?
Yeah, so the whole transaction, I guess, there's a couple of different components. There's the acquisition, which is the acquisition of Cassini by Oz Minerals. And then there's the demerger. So the demerger of those assets that we spoke about, so Yarrawinda and Mount Squires, into a new company called Cassini, and then the intended listing of Cassini. So, the consideration for the acquisition of the Cassini shares is the 15 cents in Oz Minerals scrip and a 1 cent return of capital. So that's a cash payment to shareholders. Shareholders will get a pro rata distribution into the new company. The new company will have to raise money and go through that IPO process, which has some constraints on it through the ASX regulatory sort of framework. So really, for Cassini shareholders, they get some upfront consideration for their Cassini shares. They get a shareholding in the new company, and the new company, apart not just with the Yarrawinda and Mount Squires assets, but it also will hold this contingent payment where if Oz sell or divest part of the West Musgrave project over the next 10 years, Cassini will receive up to $20 million in cash. So, there's a number of dimensions to this. It's not a simple transaction, but we think it's a really effective transaction. It allows Cassini shareholders to realise some value today, but also have some exposure to what we think are some really good exploration assets. That Yarrawinda really has been driving the Cassini share price a fair bit over the last few months with the success that Chalice have had up at Julimar. So, it's a good land holding in an exciting sort of emerging province, and really will be a good platform for us.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that there's plenty of other companies that have IPO'd on assets that are probably less advanced than what Yarra Window or Mount Squires are at the present time. So it's coming on the boards with such projects. It's got to be. There'll probably be a lot of punters out there who probably run a good eye over the IPO. Yeah,
look, we hope so. We've definitely had a bit of interest even today in what that's going to look like. They are reasonably advanced assets, so I think that's the other good thing. Normally with these sorts of schemes, that the assets that are divested or go with the company are probably the non-core assets, whereas we think we've got a couple of really good exploration projects that will provide a lot of leverage to our Cassini shareholders who come for the ride. So it augurs well to start, a life for Caspin in a good shape. Some really good solid projects with some good shareholder support, and go from there. So it's quite exciting.
All right. So what's the time frame with everything happening, Rich? When should everything be done and dusted?
Yeah. So what happens now is everyone goes and beavers away and puts together the scheme booklet, which will be mailed to shareholders sort of late August or mid to late August. And then there's a notice period, and so we'll have a shareholder meeting sort of late September, and then there'll be the second court date shortly thereafter, with a completion probably early October. By the time that all runs through, and that timetable will firm up a bit as we get some of these reports done. So that's probably the timeline. So Cassini will continue to trade. I think we've seen today that even though the consideration is 16 cents, if you're a Cassini shareholder, you'll get a flow through into the new company. So we think that there's more than 16 cents of value there. And then as soon as that's all complete, we'll in the meantime we'll sort of prepare Caspin for life on the ASX, and then look to list as soon as we can after the completion of the transaction in early October.
All right. Well, Rich, as I say, we've done quite a bit of work together over the journey. Cassini's been a good friend of the Roadhouse, so to speak, over the time. So it's been an interesting journey for us to follow. And look, good luck with the future, and I hope it all goes well. And hopefully the Roadhouse will be able to catch up with Cassini Resources and find out what's going on there.
Yeah, look, I think it will, Wally, and I think there'll be lots of exciting stuff as we prepare that company for a sort of, its listing in October. And we look forward to it. And look, thanks very much for all your support, Wally.
No worries. All right, well, Rich, all the best, and hopefully we will catch up soon with more news on the demerger.